was a deep, silent night in November 1955. Off the eastern coast of the United States near Washington, the sea lay perfectly still, as if someone had polished its surface into glass. The stars above shimmered and scattered across the mirror-calm water, and not a breath of wind disturbed the quiet port. It was a night that felt almost too peaceful. Yet beneath that calm surface, something was stirring, something so extraordinary that it would shake the entire US Navy monitoring network to its core. At 11:35 p.m, the Navy's underwater listening station suddenly picked up a series of unidentified echo signals. First, they thought it was a technical glitch. The frequency spike was unlike anything they had ever seen. Far too sharp, too fast, and too clean to belong to any known submarine, whale, or underwater vehicle. The technicians adjusted the sensitivity, recalibrated the channels, but the signal didn't vanish. It grew clearer. And then they realized this wasn't a malfunction. This was real. An underwater object moving at an impossible speed. The commander immediately ordered the activation of secondary monitoring protocols and connected two nearby sonar stations for triangulation. Moments later, when the data came in, every man in the control room fell silent. The target's estimated speed, 210 knots. That's nearly 390 kilometers per hour, over 240 miles per hour, underwater. In 1955, even the most advanced nuclear submarines could barely touch 60 knots. What they were seeing defied every law of naval engineering. It was quite literally science fiction made real. The sonar log showed the object emerging from the deep North Atlantic, then veering sharply southeast toward Boston Harbor, executing several near impossible turns, maneuver that violated known principles of hydrodynamics. Even more unsettling, there were no turbulence waves, no cavitation, no disturbance in the surrounding water. It moved as if friction and pressure didn't exist. Its motion was perfectly smooth, as though guided by some hyper-intelligent control system. And then came the strangest. The object seemed to avoid detection zones. It slipped between sonar grids, weaving through blind spots as if it knew exactly where human sense could and couldn't. One operator later said it was like it was playing hide and seek with us. The Navy's Central Command dispatched a destroyer and an anti-submarine escort frigate to cross-verify the signal on site. But as they approached the coordinate, signal vanished. Not just the echo, but the accompanying magnetic disturbance also dropped to zero, and the sea returned to its mirror-still calm. No waves, no bubbles, no trace that anything had ever been there. The ships launched small sonar torpedoes for a deeper scan, but the entire underwater zone had gone dead silent, like the ocean itself was holding its breath. By dawn, the Navy's Technical Analysis Unit had already transferred all the recording to the Boston Naval Command. The incident was immediately classified, archived under the codename Anomalous Subsurface Object. Over the following week, experts from the Office of Naval Intelligence and the Naval Weapons Laboratory painstakingly analysed every detail: sound waves, magnetic field shifts, and movement coordinates. The conclusion stunned them. They could not explain the source of propulsion, the precision of the turns, or the evasive intelligence. No known technology, American or foreign, could account for it. Some senior officers suspected it might be a Soviet experimental, but the theory quickly collapsed. In 1955, the USSR was nowhere near capable of producing an underwater craft that could reach such speeds or maneuver with such finesse. Even decades later, no such machine was ever publicly documented. What baffled analysts even more was that when the object passed through the harbour shallows, the sonar reflection didn't amplify, as it should have. That meant it never disturbed the seabed, never interacted with sand, rocks, or sediment. It may have had some form of anti-interference or fluid control shielding technology that remains extraordinarily advanced even by today's standards. For years, the entire event was locked away as top secret. Only a few within the Navy's inner circle even knew it happened.
Then, in 1978, a handful of retired sonar officers finally mentioned, during a documentary interview, that they had once tracked a highly unusual high-velocity underwater target. Their story reignited curiosity. Soon after, a book titled The Deep Sea Anomaly Files referenced the 1955 Boston Harbor recording, calling it the ghost train of sonar history. Even today, UASO, Unidentified Aquatic Submersible Object, researchers consider the Boston incident one of the most compelling cases of intelligent, unknown underwater activity ever recorded. There are no photos, no debris, only sonar logs and the words of the men who heard it. But those records remain preserved in the Naval Historical Archive, filed under non-hostile intelligent underwater anomalies. Somewhere in the vast, dark depths of the ocean, something may still be moving, something we don't yet understand. And that silent night in 1955, perhaps it was only a glimpse, a fleeting visit from an unseen intelligence that brushed past the human world, disappeared back into the deep.